Most people don't fail step one because it's hard. They fail because they're doing it completely wrong. And the crazy part is, they don't even realize it. They sit down, try to control their thoughts, try to empty their mind, and they feel like they're making progress for a few days. And then, everything falls apart. The focus slips, the mind gets louder, and the motivation disappears. And then they start thinking, maybe this isn't for me. But that's not the truth. The truth is, almost everybody makes these 3 mistakes at the beginning of step 1, and these mistakes quietly sabotage their progress moving forward. So if you're stuck on step 1, or you feel like your mind won't cooperate, or like you're missing something that some people seem to understand, you're not crazy. You're just approaching it the way most people do. In this video, I'm going to break down the 3 exact mistakes that keep people stuck in step 1, and more importantly, I'll show you how to fix them so you can start progressing the way the system is actually meant to be practiced. Alright, so before we even get into the mistakes, we need to get one thing clear. What is step 1 actually asking you to do? Because this is where most people fail from the start. Step 1 isn't the exciting part of the system. There's no rituals, no dramatic experiences, and no energy work yet. And that's exactly why people underestimate it. They come into this expecting something mystical, or something that feels like progress. But step 1 is none of that. It's foundational. It's where you learn how your mind actually works, how little control you have over it in the beginning. Bardon starts here for a very specific reason. Because if you can't observe your thoughts, you can't control them. And if you can't control them, anything you try to build on top of that, whether it's visualization, concentration, or energy work, all falls apart. And without this, it might feel like it's working for a bit, but there's no structure holding it together. So what is step 1 really made of? It comes down to 3 things. First, mental discipline. Not forcing the mind, but learning to direct it. Learning to sit with your attention and actually choose where it goes. Second, self-observation. This is where you start becoming aware of your own patterns, your thoughts, your reactions, your habits, without immediately identifying with them. In psychology, this is called metacognition. Basically, becoming aware of your own thinking process. And this alone is a massive shift, because most people go their entire lives without ever developing it. And third, physical grounding. This part gets overlooked a lot, but it matters. Your posture, your breath, your ability to sit still, these aren't just physical details. They directly affect your mental state. If your body is restless, your mind will be restless. If your breathing is chaotic, your thoughts will be chaotic. So step 1 is really about building alignment between your body and your mind. And here's the key most people miss. This is not about results. It's about structure. You're not trying to have some breakthrough experience, and you're not trying to reach some perfect state. You're building the ability to observe, to stay present, and to remain stable. Because everything that comes later in this system depends on this. Think of it like this. If your attention is weak, your concentration will collapse. If your awareness is shallow, your self-work will be inaccurate. If your mind is unstable, any higher work becomes unreliable. So step 1 isn't basic. It's foundational. And if you get this part right, you don't just move forward faster, you move forward correctly. The first mistake, and probably the most common one, is trying to control your mind before you even learn how to observe it. I call this the distorted witness. People sit down for the first time, close their eyes, and immediately there's this pressure. I need to stop thinking. So they try to force silence. They try to push thoughts away. They try to win against their own mind. And what happens? The mind gets louder. More thoughts, faster thoughts, random thoughts that don't even make sense. And it feels like failure. But here's the truth. You're not failing because your mind is too active. You're failing because you're approaching it like something to fight. And anything you fight, you feed. The more you try to suppress a thought, the more attention you give it. And the more attention you give it, the stronger it becomes. There's actually a concept in psychology called ironic process theory, studied by Daniel Wegner. And what it shows is simple. When you try not to think about something, your brain has to keep checking if you're thinking about it, which means you end up thinking about it even more. It's why if I tell you right now, don't think of a white bear, that's exactly what shows up in your mind. So when you sit down and say, I need to stop thinking, you create the exact opposite effect. You're training your mind to be more chaotic, not less. And this is where most people get stuck. They think step one is about control. It's not. It's about awareness. The actual skill you're building here is not domination. It's separation. Instead of trying to stop thought, you sit back and you watch them. You sit there and you notice. A thought comes up, and instead of following it, you just recognize it. Thinking is happening. Another thought comes up. You don't chase it. You don't analyze it. You just see it and let it pass. Like cars moving down a road. You don't jump in the first vehicle you see. You stand on the sidewalk and you simply watch them pass. And at first, it's going to feel messy. Your mind will still wander, and you'll still get pulled into thoughts. And that's normal. The difference is you're not fighting it anymore. You're learning how to observe it. And that changes everything. Because once you can observe a thought without getting pulled into it, you've taken the first step towards control. Not forced control, but real control. The kind that comes from understanding, but not resistance. And if there's one adjustment you need to make right now, it's stop trying to fight your mind and start learning how to watch it. The second mistake is a little less obvious, but it's even more dangerous in the long run. It's skipping the most important part of this step, self-knowledge. I call this the rejected mirror. This is where people start picking and choosing what they want to do. They'll practice concentration, they'll try to observe their thoughts, and they'll even attempt emptiness of mind. But when it comes to sitting down and honestly examining themselves, writing their own habits, their reactions, their flaws, and their contradictions, they hesitate, or they rush it, or they avoid it entirely because it's not exciting. There's nothing flashy about writing your weaknesses down on a piece of paper. There's nothing rewarding, at least on the surface, about confronting your own patterns. So your mind will look for something more stimulating, something that feels like progress. But here's the problem. What you refuse to see, you cannot change. And what you don't change will control everything that you do. You can sit there and train your concentration for weeks. But if you have unconscious tendencies, like impatience, ego, distraction, or avoidance, they will show up in your work, quietly, subtly, and they'll sabotage your progress without you even realizing it. This is why self-knowledge isn't optional. It's your blueprint. If you don't understand how your mind actually behaves, then you're trying to build on top of something that you don't even understand. This is similar to what Carl Jung referred to as shadow work. The process of becoming aware of the parts of yourself you normally ignore, deny, or hide. Because those parts don't disappear just because you avoid them. They operate in the background. They're the exact reason your practice feels inconsistent. And on top of that, your mind is naturally biased. There's something called the self-serving bias, where we tend to see ourselves in a more favorable light than is actually accurate. We downplay our flaws. We justify our behaviors. We tell ourselves we're doing better than we really are. So without honest introspection, you're not working with real data. You're working with a distorted version of yourself. And that makes real progress almost impossible. So you're probably asking, how can I fix this? You start treating self-knowledge like it's the core of the work, not just a side task. You sit down and you start mapping yourself out. Your reactions, your emotional patterns, your habits, your strengths, and your weaknesses. Not to judge yourself, but to see clearly. Because the moment you can look at yourself without distortion, you gain leverage. You start recognizing patterns as they happen. You catch yourself in real time, and you stop operating on autopilot. And that's when change actually becomes possible. So if you've been skipping this step or rushing through it, understand this. You're not saving time, you're delaying progress. Because everything you build from here forward depends on how honest you're willing to be right now. The third mistake is where people quietly burn out. And it's this: trying to reach emptiness of mind way too early. I call this the violated void. People sit down, close their eyes, and they expect silence. Not just a little bit of quiet, but full, sustained stillness within days, sometimes within minutes. And when that doesn't happen, they start thinking something's wrong. I can't do this. My mind is too busy. maybe I'm just not built for this. But the problem isn't failure. It's that they skipped the steps that make silence possible, because emptiness of mind isn't the starting point. It's the result of progression. And if you try to jump straight into it, you're trying to access something that your mind hasn't trained yet. It's like trying to lift heavy weights without building your strength first. Of course it feels impossible. There's nothing wrong with you, you just haven't built the capacity yet. And this is where the structure of step 1 becomes really important. There's an order to this. First, you learn to observe your thoughts. Not control them, not stop them, just observe. That's the foundation. Then, once you can do that consistently, you move into one-pointedness. This is where you take a single thought, a single object, and you hold your attention on it. Not perfectly, but deliberately. You're training your mind to stay still, not to wander every few seconds. And only when those two are somewhat stable does emptiness of mind start to become accessible. Not forced silence, but a natural quiet. The kind that happens because your mind has been trained, not because it's being suppressed. This is something that shows up in a lot of attention research as well. You'll often see a progression like this: focused attention, then open awareness, then deeper states of stillness. It's layered, and each stage prepares you for the next. So when people go straight to no thoughts, they're bypassing the very skills that make that state possible. And that's why it feels frustrating, because they're aiming for the end result without building the process that gets there. So the correction here is simple, but it's not easy. You slow down. You respect the sequence. You focus on observing first, then stabilizing attention. And you let silence come on its own, because real emptiness of mind isn't something that you force into existence. It's something that emerges when everything underneath has been built correctly. So when you step back and you look at this all together, you start to view step 1 differently. It's not mystical, it's not flashy, it's not about chasing experiences. It is structural. It's the part where you build the internal stability that everything else depends on. And if you miss that, or try to rush past it, you don't just slow your progress, you compromise everything that comes after. So bring it back to the essentials. Don't fight your mind, learn to observe it. Don't skip over yourself, learn to understand who you actually are. And don't rush the end result. Build it, step by step, because this is where the shift happens. Not when you have some sort of big experience, but when you start doing the simple things correctly. When you can sit there and watch your thoughts without getting pulled into them. When you can look at yourself honestly without avoiding what's there. And when you can practice with patience without constantly reaching for more. That's not basic. That's discipline. That's awareness. That's control in its most purest form. And if you can do that, you're not just going through step 1. You're beginning the real initiation. So take your time with this step and build it properly, because the stronger this foundation is, the further everything else will take you. And if you want to go deeper with this, I'm creating a detailed explanation of each step in the book, starting with the theory and overview and progressing with each step laid out by Franz Bardon. And this is not just quick overview. This is advanced insight. Not only am I providing easy to understand explanations for the philosophy and the exercises, but I back up everything Bardon says with modern science, and I tie it to the modern life and show you how you can apply this practically in your own life. The link to those videos will be in the description. If you have not yet seen that series, I recommend checking out every video. It's long, it's detailed, and you can use the timestamps to check out each part, especially if you're struggling with one section. And no one else really is providing explanations like this on YouTube. When I first began initiation into Hermetics, I was looking for resources, especially YouTube channels, dedicated to this system. I mean, there's so much information and it's so valuable. How could there not be a channel dedicated to this sort of transformation? And that's exactly why I created this channel, to fill that void. So if you haven't seen that series, check it out. It will make your understanding of the book 100 times better, because reading the book can sometimes be a little bit hard to understand. And I try to clear everything up, put it together, and package it nicely for you. So check that series out. I'm also in the process of creating workbooks for each step. And this is what separates theorists from real practitioners that transform their life. Now, these take time, and I don't want to just rush something out. I want to make sure this is valuable for you. So expect these workbooks to start releasing in the summer, because real transformation comes from actually doing the work and writing it down and structuring your life around it. And that's exactly why I'm creating these workbooks. And if you've made it this far and you're not yet subscribed, let me tell you something. This is not just passive information. This channel is dedicated to real transformation. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, then hit subscribe and join the Akashic Order. And if I missed anything in step 1, make sure to let me know down in the comments, because this is how I actually start to understand problems that other people have. I need you to tell me. That's why I created this channel. So if you're having any problems, let me know down in the comments. I'm making similar videos to this for each step in the book. Okay, so now's your time to get to work. I'll see you in the next one.